Circumstances ghost and like September dews. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. I don't have an unbelievable amount of time today, but I am going to think through this anyways. Set myself up. Gotta make sure Zoom is closed. I think that's what was causing me grief before. Spent half my day updating a WordPress plugin in Subversion. That was trickier than I'd like. The hard part was actually getting rid of the old build script and totally replacing it. Could have did it live, but it's CodePen code. I'm not sure how I feel about that still. Checkity, check, check, checkity, check. All right, what I'm going to do is look at this pen from the top down. So we have a main element in our HTML. That's part of the new default template on CodePen, which I think is kind of fun. Good practice. And there's different grids in it. Class name of grid, class name of grid, 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 grid. 1 item, 2 item, 3 item, 4 item, and then one with 6, which is meant to represent 6 plus. So the demonstration here is, and I don't know how, is the preview that clear with them all being purple? I put big ass dashed lines between them, hoping that, you know, like they don't need to be enormous, but I want them to look like separate grids clearly. And the point is like demonstrating that depending how many items are within a grid, we have options. And I'm not saying these are the best options in the world, but they're just, the point is it's doing something totally different. And it could be completely and totally different. And demonstrating with kind of as little code as possible too. I don't want to go crazy wild with them because I guess the clutch of the explanation of this pen, which is really basically for a blog post, are these statements, which are not that complicated, but you know, hence not wanting to go overly wild here. So let's focus on this one for a minute. If you have a grid and there's one item inside of it, the grid class is going to apply. It's going to be display grid. It wouldn't even really need to be display grid because there's one item inside of it. It could be display block, but I don't mind just calling a grid. That seems fine to me. I'm almost put a space there because it's like this is what matters and this matters less. It's a little tempting to like pluck stuff like that out, and like, have you ever seen, I feel like it's kind of a nice concept when, why is it complaining about this? Oh yeah, we need to flip off style int, enable block, remove block. Why does it say enable block? It already thinks it's disabled, but it's running anyway. So that is what's called a bug, y'all. And I just screenshotted it so I can deal with it later. Oh, hi Joel. I'm very sorry. I'm not showing my screen. I had it on camera mode because I was doing different scenes. Thanks for the shout out. Glad you're here. And now I'm worried this is going to be absolutely obnoxious because of this bug. Well, maybe I'll enable it. I'm going to enable the block and then disable the block because I don't really want to see its output. Style lint is disabled. Are you though? Because I'm sure seeing a lot of warnings about you. Even this is considered a warning. It doesn't even like the space in there. So it's disabled, but it's running anyways. That's a bug, so it's just going to be obnoxious to look at this. Maybe I could just delete it, though. Just remove it. Can't report errors if it doesn't exist, right? Yeah, good enough. I don't even remember why we added it. It was kind of I think there was something wrong that was like a CSS linting error that it would catch. And I don't mind the idea of like adding a little technology to a pen to solve a problem and then removing the technology, because why not? So again, we are looking at grids with different number of children in them, hence quantity query, like If grid has 2 items in it, then do something different. That is what these 3 lines of code do. Does the grid have a second child? Yeah. Okay. Then and only then apply the grid template columns. What's important to know there is, let's say the grid has 3 items in it. Will this still match? Yes, it will match. So hence the next one where it's like, okay, if there's 3 items in there, we could have stopped there. But just kind of for fun, when we were playing with this, we're saying, well, also though, it doesn't have a 4th child. So, which means it's got a 3rd child, not a 4th child. This is a way of expressing it has only exactly 3 children in it. And in that case, we're not changing the number of columns. We could change the number of columns. We could just go like this and add a 3rd column if we wanted to. I think we would probably approach it differently if that was our plan with something like auto columns. But yeah, now we have 3 columns and we're telling the 3rd child to stretch across 2 columns. It doesn't have room. It would go here where I'm circling my mouse, but it doesn't have room. So it has to go down onto the next column, and there it can span 2. But we're not doing that. We're leaving our 2 column grid in place, which means that the 3rd item will then stretch across both columns. That's what's happening right there. So we don't have to only select the grid. We can select the children too. That's what differentiated this from quantity queries of old, where we really only had access to the children and not to the parent. Now that we have access to the parent, we can do anything. We can select the parent or the children down in there. So we could do, like, to differentiate this grid, we could also say, like, whatever the child is, we could give it a different color. I could pluck a new color off of this. Like, what goes nice with purple? Blue. BG that. Yeah. Is that nice to differentiate this from this? And then we could give different colors all the way down. I think it might be worth it. So I'm going to do that. So for the 3 column one, we'll pick a different color. Blue down to this incredible color that I couldn't even begin to have a name for. Sea teal. And then, interestingly, we don't, it's you know, like, it's hard to select 4 because we don't even have a selector for it, because it doesn't matter. Like, we've already applied a 2 column grid. A 2 column grid is what we want to happen when there's 4 items in the grid, and it already has that. So there's no reason to, like, write more CSS to describe that when it's already doing what we want it to do. And then the most interesting thing was, like, okay, but does it have 5 children? And then 5 children or more, of course. And the or more part is like, well, now we have to be a little careful. We've already set up a 2 column grid, but, like, we don't want it to be a 2 column grid. We want it to be kind of a as many as you need column grid. Grid can do that. It's a little tempting to just, like, use Flexbox or something, which naturally does that if you have it not wrapped. But, you know, we're already in grid land. So let's not set columns anymore, but have auto columns instead. Those auto columns we can set to be a particular width. So if we made it 250, these things will grow wider down here, sure, but picking a number seems okay. I wonder what would happen if it was auto. Would they be just really, really, really narrow? Remember when we looked at what content? Oh, look at that. That's interesting. It's kind of narrow, but it's not mega narrow. Is it because of there's, like, a decent amount of padding on the grid items? No. That's funny. Well, oh, it's auto because it still wants to fill the area. I bet that's it. I bet if we only had 5 items in there, which would still match, it would stretch to fill the space. I didn't know grid would do that. I thought it would actually not do that, but it does. That's fine. And then we're saying auto flow meaning when there's, I don't know, more stuff that can fit, I guess you should flow in the column direction, not the row direction. So I guess that's kind of, it's almost like forcing it to not wrap. So we got rid of our existing columns, made the flow go the direction we want with the right size. Let's say that. And then they're all not going to fit, right? There's too many 200 pixel chunks, 6 of them, to fit. So what do we want to happen? What would naturally happen is I guess it would just stretch that element. But now we can say, oh, we don't want it to be stretched horizontally. We want it to be as wide as it already is, the natural page. But then if it overflows that, just put the scroll bar there. So we have a scroll bar there. That's thanks to overflow X auto. The scroll bar won't be there at all if it's not there. That's the nice thing about the auto value, which is kind of nice. Then we're saying over scroll behavior X contain. I'm sure we just copy and pasted that from the carousel configurator web thing. But I guess the idea is like when you get to the end of it, it doesn't go up to its parent and continue the scrolling there. I'm not sure how like extra amazingly useful that is, but it has scroll snapping too. So as I scroll just a little bit, you can see it kind of pull back in as I let go of the mouse button. And if I pull more and let go, eventually we get to the point where it's happier to snap at one of the middle ones instead. Scroll snapping is just beautiful and easy to do. This stuff also makes me feel good about fallback behavior because the grid setup is going to work across all browsers and the scroll snapping is going to work across all browsers. It's just these like fancy, these extras that are not going to work across, well, Firefox and Safari right now. But it's like I almost don't even care about putting in at supports there because they just aren't understood. They're just going to be ignored by those browsers. So I don't care that much about a supports query unless it was like a supports not query and we were going to do something else. But part of the beauty of this to me is that this is all CSS. So it's amazing. You know, like the temptation is, I don't know, do the test in JavaScript and then build the carousel with whatever, owl carousel or pick your favorite carousel. But we don't need any JavaScript at all to pull off this quantity query carousel thing, which is pretty rad. The scroll behavior smooth is nice, particular for these buttons. So as I click a scroll button, and that's all we're using here. We're not using the dots or anything. We're just using these left and right arrows. The left and right arrows, as you click them, they smoothly scroll to the next thing. That's kind of a big line for me. If I comment that out, it feels like the carousel really gets like much less fun. What happened to our colors? Save. Is there like a caching sitch that happened there? Refresh. Or did we break something? Like, why aren't these the right color anymore? We have a big PR landing in the build process today that I'm worried would touch stuff like this. Maybe I just have bad timing. But yeah, that is not being selected at all, which should be being selected by that. So is the CSS just old in here? Let's see what's being loaded. You can always just grab the preview and open it in a new tab. That will see if the caching is okay. So it's fine there. It's just not fine here. Oh God, there it goes. That I'm going to chalk up to a deployment issue for the moment. And what were we trying to test? Yeah, if you click this without smooth scrolling on it, it like kind of ruins the carouselness, if you ask me. Seems to be kind of a mandatory thing. I've always wished we could control the like when it does scroll behavior smooth and when it doesn't, meaning like I just remember when I put it on CSS Tricks back in the day and I just got a deluge of responses of people that saying when you command F on the page and go through the things that it finds, that it being forced to smooth scroll through that was super undesirable for them. And there was enough pushback that I removed it. So like, isn't that interesting that like you would want it here, but I could see not wanting it in some circumstances. And even more importantly, probably is like how fast it goes and what easing it has and all that. We have no control. It's just smoother it ain't. So kind of interesting in that way. Okay, we have some padding around our grid in the block direction. Oh yeah, that was just to push away the scroll bar. Otherwise the scroll bar like literally touches these elements in this setup, and I didn't like that. And then remember we removed I thought the scroll bar looked better when we removed the track, but not the thumb. And I was annoyed that you can't do that. You can't just say, you know, scroll bar color track is none or something like that. You have to pick a color here. And I was like, that is unbelievable to me. I'm just going through this again because I want to Basically, I want to get the blog post done and make sure that I didn't miss anything and that the CSS looks really clean. The scroll button being attached with a position anchor, I think, is really cool. It's just a neat idea. It's like a way to hang off the left and hang off the right by using these position areas. It's just a little trick that, again, it just came when we copied and pasted the crap from the carousel configurator, but it is a clever idea, especially because they're like the way that the scroll buttons, remember, we'll look in the dev tools again. This is like a thing to know that we actually ran into just the other day. It looks like they're children of grid. And in some ways they behave like they're children of a grid, and in some ways they don't. Like, they will not participate on this grid. They're actually siblings of grid. Like, I guess that's what they actually are, even though DevTools is clearly painting them as children here. I just think that's weird. And I guess it's hard to say that they're either, because they do behave differently. But because they're not in the positioning context, they're not children of that grid, we can't really use the grid to put them somewhere. So, like, what's the best way to position them based on the parent, even when they're not, they don't have the context of their parent to use? Anchor positioning is a great thing to use there. Except for that's just yet another thing that not all browsers support, but any browser that supports this carousel crap certainly supports anchor positioning, so we're okay there, which is nice. So again, the fallback in like Safari and Firefox will just be a horizontal scroller with something. Andrew's wondering about whether are they absolute to the body? I don't know. We should almost make a list of the different ways that they behave, but I guess the easiest way to understand it is, well, they're not on the grid like a after or before would be. So I don't know what to tell you. I forget the complete list of it, but it weirds me out. Yeah, I don't know. This is looking fine to me, though. I kind of like how simple it is. I guess this is pretty crucial. And we're calling it div here, so maybe we should call it div here. Like, if this is explanational CS, I don't want anybody looking at this to think that we have them different for some very important reason. So then it goes back to maybe the 4 should go back to purple, but I don't want to select it really. So by default it's purple, then we force it to be blue. Maybe can we make blue the default? The default. And we'll make this Rebecca purple. That way 2 and 4 are the same, which kind of emphasizes that they're the same layout. And then the grid, we do have an opportunity to change them here. So we'll just pick one more color. It's like orange, deeper-ish orange, BG. And you're not sure how to tell if they are anchor positioned. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. It's a scroll button. It's using the position anchor of carousel, which we set up on the carousel, or the whole parent itself. That has the anchor. So when we position it to that custom ident, as we're calling them, which are mandatory to be used. And as a matter of fact, I like the anchor. Isn't that an emoji? Let's make our custom ident have an anchor in it, because it can never be reused. It's kind of the point of the anchor. It's kind of a nice trick, I think, to be like, that thing, that's an anchor. So when I use it, it's an anchor. Yeah. Anyway, so that's acceptable, isn't it? Maybe we should use a slightly darker orange because of the white color on it. Readability, not that 1 through 6 particularly matters as content, but what are you gonna do? Maybe I'll signal my displeasure with the you can't just transparent the track. I'm saying if you position relative to the grid, can you tell if the button parent changes to the grid? I think if let's temporarily not anchor position them at all. We can do this. Where are they going to be? I think they're going to be they're going to like push down below the grid or something. They're just gone for one thing. Let's see if DevTools can kind of tell us where they are. It doesn't. They're somewhere, but where? Couldn't tell you. Maybe it's the translate that's screwing them up. I could get rid of the translating. Oh, did it re-render? Let me just comment those out too. But still, yeah, it's not clear where they're even going to go. But now position relative to the grid, and we'll absolutely position them. So this thing temporarily will pause rel. That's what I call position relative, pause rel. Then we absolutely position these. They're fixed for now, but there's no top and left. So if we went top 0, left 0, would we see them show up here? No, they're not children. Well, position fixed behaves differently though, isn't it? If we position absolute, no, they're still, you see that? They're children of the freaking body now, or they're children of the main element, I guess, because that's the parent of the grid. Yes. See, look at this. Hate it? Yeah, we hate it. It's not good. That's weird. That's like officially they're not children of the grid. Anyway, now we have a bunch of CSS to unscooshify you two. Can we do 2 lines at once? No. Gotta do them one at a time because they're commented out one at a time. So position, it is officially the best way to handle this. It's like getting some free absolute positioning on an element that is unrelated in the DOM. All right, is that actually fixed now? I much prefer the nice ones we put on our little template buddy here. Remember how much we struggled to get hovers differently on those? That was a rough day. It was probably me. Okay, so this is a pretty good demo. I do just want to, I have a blog post on it already, and I was trying to like make sure that the demo is really clean. So my whole boarding this morning was making sure this URL, which is like the new editor URLs, you know, the ones that have /editor in them, which I do kind of prefer as a URL structure for us. This is what the new embeds look like on CodePen, but the WordPress plugin did not work. There's like a regex to basically pluck the ID off of the end of this that has to be relatively permissive, but strict enough to absolutely know what it means. So all I had to do is update the regex. But of course, this WordPress plugin has a build process. The build process was powered by like just some dude early days of the block editor wrote up a little like Webpack script to help build the React-y JavaScript crap that makes a block plugin work. Is there a refresh on this bad boy? Didn't we used to have a refresh button? Is it in here? Here? Preview? Ooh, there is. Boop. Yeah, nice. So I had to rip it out. Now Automatic or WordPress.org or however you say it has like an official build process of it. And I spent a long time updating it to get it to work with the new build process, which kind of feels good because now it's the official one. But to be perfectly honest, I like vibe coded some of it. I wrote for the first time on a project, you know, because it was only like 12 files or something. It felt like the perfect opportunity to do that. And I just opened up my cursor and I just described really clearly what I wanted to happen and tried to link up docs and stuff. And it did okay. I still had to do most of the work, but it had some, it was helpful on some of the trickier crap and some of the rote crap. So it's a freaking new world out there, isn't it? Okay, so this is how I'm explaining it in the blog post, is kind of like, let's say you got 1 or you got 2 or you got 3, and how it's interesting you don't have to do all of them and how you can do negative ones. And then I'll explain the carousel at the end, and then I'm just going to ship the dang thing. So mostly I'm forcing myself to explain that idea because it has been in my head for like weeks now. Not that. And not that either. The little dot here is my little streaming one. Let's read what Andrew has to say. There is one more variant, which is if there are less than X children, which would round out your examples. Yeah, okay. So like the one that, yes. is less than 4. Okay, I'll make sure to put that in the blog post. I think you're right. So like if it doesn't have a fourth child, then it's 3 or less. Remember how I think that was the most complicated of the this website rules where it was like, oh yeah, okay. Well, in our case, it's grid div or something, right? And it would say, ooh, at least most. Surely this is the most complicated. So at least 2, but at most 5 or something. What it output was pretty intense. So you have a grid that has, you can select from backwards 2, meaning there's at least 2 and at most 5, and then select the first one and then kind of do that again, but use the sibling combinator to select all the rest of them. That's what I mean. These old school quantity queries, you could only get access to the children, but if you needed to come back to the grid, you couldn't do it. So has is just clearly a nicer way to pull that off. So pretty good demo. That gives me enough to just finish the stupid blog post. It's not stupid. It's cool, actually. I thought it was far-fetched when I first, heard the idea from Ahmad. He mentioned it on stage because he was talking. He had lots of cool demos, but this one he's like, you could make it a carousel, and I'm like, could you now? It just had good synergy with Adam's talk, which was all about carousels, and then Miriam's talk was all about mix-ins. Dave and I had a shop talk today, but I think mix-in is like one of the more perfect examples of something that you could use this type of crap for. So couldn't you imagine like a mix-in that's really just carousel, and mix-ins can take parameters. Now mix-in does not exist in CSS yet. I think the furthest it is along is like a Miriam write-up on like what it could be like or something, but you could imagine properties for the mix-in, right? And we could say, I don't know, scroll buttons, and it makes me want to do custom idents, but I'm not sure it's actually necessary here. But we could go scroll button. No, I do want to make them idents. Scroll button. I have a reason. And it's, I don't know what you would say. Do you need to do a type here? Do you need to go like, it's a Boolean or something, or is just nothing acceptable? I mean, I'm not trying to apply TypeScript to CSS or anything, but you could also say like scroll dots or something, scroll buttons and scroll dots. It accepts those 2 values, and then it can use those 2 values like within the locally scoped chunk here, and then it would do this stuff. So I'll just temporarily do that. I guess the seeing an ampersand without a parent is awfully weird. I wonder if that would work. But here you'd just go apply carousel, and that's it. Or you could pass stuff into it. Or you could say that scroll buttons are true, but scroll dots are false or something. And then theoretically you could use if or something, or a style query, some kind of way to use these values to output this CSS if the value that you passed in was true or false. And then what I mean by I want them to be custom idents, or even we'll just call them custom properties, because that's what they would be, that you could set that here alternatively. Like I could say scroll dots, and I could make the scroll dots false or true here, and then if something else changed this custom property, like JavaScript or a media query or something, that it would change what the apply has, and the mix-in would re-render, which is like a uniquely cool browser-y thing that could happen theoretically. But I could see this mix-in being enormous, having just tons of CSS in it that has different opportunities to take values and stuff, and fine tune how you want the carousel to work. That seems nice. It'd be nice to ship as a third-party library or something. I don't know how I got started on mix-ins. It just was cool at CSSA to have all these talks kind of riff off each other, even though I was there too and gave a talk and didn't plan any of that stuff. I talked about @scope, which was fine. Cool. Quantity queries, we got that cleaned up. There is one of those carousels on this thing too. I would love to just finish this up. So I was looking at earlier, these hovers seem fine to me, but the contrast seems bad here. I would use black instead of white in light mode, right? I am just gonna work on this manually a little bit just for fun. Nice, I got a spam, but I just blocked him. Boom. Banned. That feels good. I'm so popular that spammers just target me. All right, where is that? What's going on with that button? They're down a little further. They are these things. It is button and button invis and button not invis. So button. Did that actually ship now? Yeah, that's what I did the other days. I made sure that our find and project has nice selection stuff. It's still not out. Oh my gosh. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to deploy it right now, but I'm going to deploy it so you can't see our secret admin tool. It's going to be great. I know you won't be able to see anything. Oh, I just did it wrong, didn't I? I'm making you see it. I'm going to say that you don't care because I don't think there's anything too weird in here anyways. Oh, it did just go out because Alex is shipping those new build plans. That is interesting stuff. It's going to open up some new doorways, but why didn't that change? So now I'm worried that the CSS I wrote for it is wrong because that should have an outline around it and be a lot more legible than it is now. So production problems, know what I'm saying? So dot button, where I'm appending that filled is, I don't know, why would I care if it's light and dark? Why would I use light dark there when main color is not dependent on that? I'm just going to say that it's black. I think black will just look better on that button naturally. Save. That didn't work, did it? Is it not a button filled? And button filled, it still has this old CSS on it. So why is the build not running? Oh my God, the formatter is mad. I think Alex is working literally right now on getting that dynamic build plan stuff out, but we don't need a formatter right now, do we? Can we just run the build again? I'll get rid of you then. I think we are mid deploy here, and it is not liking that. Ooh, that kind of worked though. But it's the same problem where it's disabled, but it's still. Did you remove yourself? I don't need you either. There it goes. All right, just some issues with the formatter or whatever. Screenshots taken. Don't worry, everybody. Where are buttons again? So invis should be black as well. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what's the point of this main color if it's... Is the down arrow, but can that just be the main color then? I think that would be acceptable. So invis, if we use this a lot, yeah, it's funny. We did make it a custom property. We just didn't replace it in the one spot that to do was at. But I want this to be black. Oh my God, the formatter showed back up for a second. Do you see that? I think that's acceptable. It's almost like we're not using the quote unquote main color like enough in here. And it makes it kind of feel like, what's the point of this yellow color if it's just barely being used? I feel like I want to sprinkle it in a little more. Maybe the links could be that color. That's the yellow seems a little light for a link color though. It makes me almost not want to have it. Let's just get rid of main color. All this is just an experiment anyway. So this will just be black then. Well, that can't be social link hover. Yeah, we can't have it be black though. So this, because obviously it won't work in dark mode. So that does call for light dark. And then the outline would be in light mode black. It would be like that. Yeah. So we get blacks around it, which is fine. And then dark mode, we get lights around it. Yeah, that works fine. Is there any more main color to get rid of? Main color? Just a little bit. Yeah, in the button itself. All right, so when we set black before, that's not going to work. So we'll have to go light, dark, black, white. Makes me want to set that to the main color instead of repeating it all over the place, but whatever. The fill on those SVGs inside the button should be white. We'll need to use this as well. I don't know. It's simple enough that it doesn't bother me that much. In dark mode, you should be white. Yes, we have that going on now. The color of this button needs to be that too. Get that going on, but now you can't see anything. It's almost like we should do the reverse, right? We should keep that, but make this white, black. Is it classy? Designers like wearing black turtlenecks and stuff anyway, don't they? So why is that not working? Oh, because I need a semicolon. It'd be nice if our little builder caught a simple error like that a little better. But now the color, I'm straight up setting the color, but because it's an anchor link, it's getting overridden. Is that why? Why would that link? Oh, is it another missing semicolon? Yes. Yeah, and I think we should just get rid of this because we got rid of main color. This was just demonstrating that like Safari has this thing now, meaning you don't have to do this specifically. It will pick white or black for you based on the background color, but now we're being so simple that it's like educational, I guess. We could leave it in there in that sense. Merp. Safari shipped this. Could use someday. And then the contrast color. Yeah, I guess it feels stupid to say contrast color black. You're like, well, do you think it's going to pick white? It's like you almost have to pass it a custom property for it even to be meaningful in any way. But now we got that going on and that going on. That seems lovely. Oh, and see design work even links down. Where does that link to? View design work links to. There's this. See design work. Links to design work, which is it like a section element? Yeah. Let's do that. Let's say like H2 recent work. That's an opportunity to style it like that, but smaller, I guess. Where is it? Yeah, there. So wherever we styled our H1, we might as well style the H2 there also. Steal one of you. And we'll steal you, but we'll make you less bigger. And I guess we'll steal you too. That feels a little repetitive, but not in a way that's terribly bothersome. Save. Rerunning is not super fast. Recent work, cool, and this still links down. Recent work, I think that sounds fine. This text seems so boring. It makes me want to pick out like a nice serif or something to use. I don't think that's out of the question considering we're already using a custom font there. But like I don't mind it here. I hate to make this thing too weighty though. You know what we could do though is go to like modern font stacks. I've been using this a little bit lately because you don't have to load anything, but it's like font stacks. It's one of those like you'd be surprised what browsers support these days. Transitional old style. No, old style's a little too old style, wouldn't you say? Optima. What's a nice serif? Too classy. Let's use this one. Feels weird to sprinkle it in one spot, but I really don't like how that looks. I think we can do better there. So what's the index.html? we call this design work with a class, and there's articles within it. In .txt, I forget what we did with txt. Find txt. Oops, I made a new file. Delete. Delete, is that? No. I was just checking to see if it was a command, but you really got to be more specific. txt. We didn't even use that class. It must have been demonstrative in some way, but we could use it now, I guess, since that's the thing that we're actually targeting anyways. Button, carousel, design work. So .txt would have the new class, right? Yeah, actually, I do actually kind of like that, but we're going to get bigger. Font size. Would we just kick it up, or should we use a keyword? I think that's funny sometimes. Yeah, is that a little too big? Yeah, I mean, using a keyword is like a ridiculous lack of control. I like it in some circumstances, but I'm not sure this site calls for it. 0.5 rem perhaps. I like the line height when it got bigger though. That's nice. Yeah, maybe a little too big, but that's what I was shooting for about. 1.33, let's say. Cool. Obviously those are meant to be differentiated. And then it goes to the footer a little bit too abruptly. That was the last two things bugged me a little bit. I think we should push away the bottom on that bad boy, which is the design work section. So something like margin block and like 10 rem, really give it some space away from each other so the footer makes more sense. And then the site footer, I think, should have a background, which I guess is going to complicate this a little bit, but let's just switch it out to black. That's a pretty designery thing to do. So if I just went background color and then just reversed these, is that the way to go? So this is 50 and this is 60. That's why that is a weird choice. But that's this paragraph, right? So that is not what we want to do. We want to simplify this to the background color is just black or white. So that's going to go white. And then does that text look okay? No, we still have some work to do. For one thing, we give ourselves some space, meaning padding block of like 3 rem or something. That'll be the top and the bottom. Make it more footer-like. And then what happened there? Why is just black crossed off, but white is okay? Or it's just saying that white is the chosen value from it. So this is just wrong. White, black, because we reversed the colors. That seems fine, but, and it's isolated within site footer, so that should be fine. Yeah, okay. What is this? Can I make that a little tiny bit smaller? These P's, just this first P. So footer text. I don't know. It's tempting to just be so sloppy with this and just be like, I don't know. Or first of type. How about that? You are smaller. Font size of 85% or something. So it's just a little bit different size than all the rest of it is. A little too much. And maybe we could use that. Oh, that's funny. Look at how this got small too, because it's also the first of its type. This link is the first of its type. So we would need a direct descendant to make sure it's not like nestedly doing that. That is funny to me. And then we could use our new little font stack. Does it look good small? No. But it's not awful. It's weird how now all of a sudden this got selected too, because that's also, it's a first of type. Oh my gosh. And child 2. That's stupid, but we should just give them classes probably. All right, whatever. I'm not going to focus on that too much longer. And then the bottom, we could do something that just is irrelevant of modes. That sounds kind of fun to me. Maybe we do each of the colors differently, or we could use like lettering JS or something. It'd be almost fun to do a scroll driven animation, have it like slide up from the bottom or something. Let's, I kind of don't mind that it goes back to black. So it's like, there's the footer and then there's that. We could do the kind where it's not a scroll driven animation, but it's like a drawer, like this has been there the whole time and the website slides out from under it. What did I call that at one time? There was like a cool way to do that was actually somewhat practical. Slide up footer or something. And where would I have blogged that? Was it at the end of my CSS Tricks days? Oh my God, was it 5 years ago? Oh my God, I'm getting old. Is this the one where it reveals? That's totally what I want. Is it impractical to do? Position sticky. No, it looks ridiculously easy to do. And I think we have the right HTML structure for it too. Let's do it. Oh my gosh. A sticky footer, but it's stuck to the bottom. How often do you see sticky on the bottom? Never. So footer, site footer, wrong pen, style, site footer is going to have that stuff. So it's down, but, and that's actually not what we want it. We want it on the dot final or whatever. Dot final, you have this stuff. So you'll be stuck to the bottom, fine. But we need to, how do we make sure the rest of it is like over top? Is that what this stuff does? It needs to have a solid background and it needs to have a height to cover the screen, which it probably already does. And then this puts it on top. So let's steal that stuff. And do we have a main selector to do it with? We kind of like do, right? Is there a selector that selects everything except for dot final? Not really. So we could evaluate that HTML structure quick. Is it more appropriate that there's a main that wraps all these three? No, you wouldn't call that main because then it would include the footer and stuff. So we just need like a page wrap. And then we'll put the closing page wrap after all this crap, but not including the final. Does that seem acceptable? So page wrap would have the other stuff. I kind of don't want to put it way at the bottom though. It'd be like here, page wrap, page warp, lol. Oops. It is this stuff. Copy and paste like a real dev. Is that enough? Ooh, the background white's going to be a little issue, isn't it? But then, all right, we just can't say background white because do we like have to give this a background, or is the background that the other stuff has enough? No, it's not enough. Oh, that looks so rad though, doesn't it? Maybe we don't change it. Is it like too weird though? It's too weird, isn't it? I like how the interplay with this grid is sick. No, now I want to keep it. I want to keep it, but I want to I don't want it to be there absolutely all the time. So maybe we need a scroll driven animation to have it show up only sometimes. Yeah, maybe. I'm willing to do so. I think I'm willing to do it. So we need a scroll animation on the HTML, right? A scroll timeline. Do you have to just say that and then you give it the custom ident? Yeah. And then it's in the block direction. That one. So there's a scroll timeline that's like reveal final in the block direction. Then we have some keyframes down by final called like reveal final or something that goes from we'll just say from opacity 0 for now, and then we'll play with this to opacity 1. Fair enough. And then we apply it, animation, reveal final, and then animation timeline is the name of the one we already used. That's nice that it's showing me these. I actually didn't even know that was a thing, but it's not capturing idents apparently because this was not in the list. Funky monkey. I feel like we're missing some stuff here. We don't need a time. Is it going to work? Ooh, we don't need nothing, but we want to wait until, like, it's starting to be too much right there. But that's the beauty of the keyframe here, is that we could just take the keyframe and say it's more like at 50% of the way down. Oh, then it's going to go out and in though. In a way, we don't, that this could just be opacity 0 to begin with. And then it's just going to stay at opacity 0 until we're 50% of the way through, and then it starts coming in. But I almost prefer a little earlier than that. It just, I want it to like not be too interfere on the text. Kapow. I think that's it. It starts coming in. A little earlier still. That kind of rules, right? So I'm kind of trying to be done with this, but now we have like a font that's only being used in a couple of places. Maybe that's okay. We're not really using any splash colors at all. Maybe that's okay. These have color. It just feels like not totally polishedly done, but maybe that's done enough for streaming. So that's cool. So we cleaned up quantity queries. We looked at the one-page portfolio, and that's it for today. Plenty more work to do this week. I really do want to look at gap decorations. I haven't looked at all yet, so we'll save that for tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. I love you.